Welcome to Voices of Tech and Litigation with your host, Ray Beken. This podcast will broaden your knowledge in the use of technology in business and our everyday world. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, chorusconsulting.net. Now here's the host of Voices of Tech and Litigation, Ray Beken.
Scott Zimmerman, how you doing, man?
Ray Beken, doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Man, I appreciate you taking a minute with me. You've got a lot of experience in the industry and in different realms and legal tech. And man, you popped in my head. I called you and we set this up. So a quick introduction, everybody, of Scott Zimmerman. Man, I've known him for a pretty good while now. He has a pretty good career in legal tech. He has a different path than a lot of the people that I know. He was at Renewed Data, a large service provider. He was over at Haynes and Boone, a very, very large law firm, heading up their lit support department over there. And now he's a director of recruiting at 2 Point Consulting. So I thought it'd be a nice way to get perspective in three different areas of working in the legal tech world. So welcome, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Definitely a perspective, that's for sure.
Well, intro about you. Tell me a little bit about what you're up to today. What's going on in your world?
Gosh, today is another packed full day over here. So as you just mentioned to everybody, I'm in the recruiting space now here in the legal technology industry. So getting to meet all kinds of people. And I'll tell you, Ray, I thought I knew everybody. I didn't know anybody, man. Like there are so many people that I'm encountering that I don't know, and it's very refreshing to meet people and now be able to help them through their journey through legal technology.
Yeah, the whole world. We get in our little bubbles sometimes with where we're at the current moment, right? So I've got my little bubble of people that I know and people I work with. But I guess you having a little bit more experience in different realms, or meeting some different people out there looking for jobs and looking for new tech jobs. Tell me a little bit about how have you seen things change in the legal tech world, and how are you using that in your current career and speaking to people and finding them jobs?
No, that's a great question. I've done a lot in the space. I've worked the jobs from project management, operations management, sales consulting, sales engineering, sales operations, and kind of really all points in between. And things have consolidated a lot. I had a unique opportunity to leave the industry for about 3 years to focus on my own company outside of the industry, and then got brought back in a little bit over a year ago. And it gave me a really unique perspective, because being gone for a while and then coming back and seeing how much things have really changed or not changed was, kind of a unique vision that I don't think any of us would have fully anticipated. And what I really saw there is, a lot of things are the same. A lot of things are in the process of changing. There's been a ton of consolidation. A lot of the people that were in these roles back when you and I were young bucks on the scene,
Yeah.
they got burned out. They're gone, or they've promoted very high up within these organizations that currently remain. And there's a new class, for lack of a better, phrase or analogy. There's a new class of people that are out there. Some are 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, all in these different realms of knowledge, and the years don't necessarily translate to the jobs, right? So somebody that's got a year or two in an organization where they're very hyper focused on just one task doesn't necessarily have all the tools they need to transition to that same job in another company that's expecting more. For instance, I spoke with somebody today, and they were identifying themselves as a project manager, and it really came out to the point that they were assisting an executive in the company, helping them manage projects, but not how you or I would traditionally define a project manager in this space.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. It has changed a lot. And I look back on my career. I've been in this industry since 94. I took a small 4-year hiatus from it and came back. But some people that I hired years ago that are 15 years my junior are now in VP positions or customer success positions at different companies and having great success. And that actually gives me a little bit of pride. And hey, I sought these people out. They came, we started their career, and now they're blossoming. So I think that's a pretty cool way to look at people
Yeah,
that
you're
you
kind
help
of
in the
you're
world.
kind of like a vampire, and you are their maker. And now they can't get out of there, Ray. This is all your fault.
Yeah. So if they don't like the industry in 5 years, it's my fault they got into this world,
That's
right? So
exactly right.
yeah,
I'll tell
yeah,
you what's fascinating, like on the technology side, I know when you and I were hitting it pretty hard, what about, 10 years or so ago, technology assisted review was, kind of coming on the market, and adoption was an infinite struggle, right? There were some that adopted immediately and others that were just wildly resistant. Some of that was due to taking away time from billable people. Some of it was just fear of technology, fear of job loss, and so on and so forth.
right.
And as of late, with all the recent things like ChatGPT and Google Gemini, there's a lot of what appears to be more rapid adoption, right? I'm even seeing it on the recruiting front. People are going and doing their resumes in there, and sometimes you could tell, like, be smart about it, right? Like, edit
Yeah.
it a little bit afterwards. But the amount of power that's out there now technologically and the speed at which it appears to be getting adopted into this space is wildly surprising to me.
Yeah, you're not the first one that has told me that they feel like the adoption of this is better than with tar and cal and things like that. Yeah, that it's going to happen quicker. Are you using AI, any of that type of stuff in your world now, and sifting through resumes and dealing with people?
Yeah, I'll do it a little bit, whether it be kind of polishing up a pitch. I could, have a couple of sentences and ask the tools to revise it or improve it, and see what it comes up with that I might not be thinking of. I mean, the tools are there. You'd be silly not to employ them in some kind of capacity. For regular communication, I think it's fantastic. If you're going to rely on it to make a decision for you on your case based on evidence, you know, be a little bit smarter than that, but for regular communications, polishing up documents, I wouldn't tell your kids to rely on it exclusively for their homework type situation, but as a tool to compare, or find some better ways to say it. I think you can learn from it too. At the end of the day, it's all developed by us humans, so it only goes so far, right?
Yeah.
And some of the
Yep.
stuff it spits out isn't exactly on point, so we might give you 80% of it, and if you could spend the time editing the remaining 20%, you could save quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
I think if it gets employed properly and intelligently, we could potentially start to see a lot of flat rate type work start showing up, where these types of tools are in the background with an elite force of humans sitting there managing them and coaching clients and consulting along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So, how do you think all this is going to change the way the law gets done out there? I mean, adoption you think is a little bit better than some of the other technology advancements, but how do you think this is going to impact the way the law gets done?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I just get to sit here and watch. I'm of the newly minted TikTok generation. I just want to see what happens after.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
interesting.
honestly, I really don't have the answer. I don't know. I don't know what is going to change in the law. I mean, it could potentially speed things up, which I think would be a blessing for really everybody that has to deal with any sort of court case, be it personal or through a corporate business style environment. Um, Knowing where your position is a lot faster based on prior matters. I mean, knowledge is power. The quicker you get to it, I used to tell folks all the time, if you could get to the information faster, if you could somehow filter it where the cream rises to the top, then you've got pole position. You could make decisions faster, you can position things quicker. you can shoot some missiles over to the other side and, freak them out and get them to a settlement fast.
Right.
If it, we were seeing back in the Renew days that, we were able to do that. And we were able to get them a little bit of edge just by, running some analytics or, bringing some of that, proverbial cream to the top. And it helped a lot. And then that piece kind of died out when they got acquired.
Yeah.
And we've just seen a lot of just everyone's got their own little twist. A lot of it's workflow. Everyone's using the same tools. The differentiation seems to be fairly minimal. I think it's coming down to how people are treated and how well they employ the technology and how efficiently they get folks through.
Yeah, I've seen a difference in a lot of the smaller, more boutique type firms that used to maybe have to refer business out to a larger entity that they couldn't handle because of volume. Using technology, they can keep cases in house because
Mm-hmm.
they can let technology do some of the work that they used to have a lot of manpower to do. So I think that's one improvement, and it's allowing the smaller or mid-sized guy to go ahead and compete with the larger firms.
Oh, absolutely. In that same breath, though, I think there's a lot of risk. Just because you can do it yourself doesn't mean that you should.
Right.
And hiring a service provider or a consultant that is familiar with the process would be very wise. You might be able to get it cheap. You might be able to go get, the Discos, Reveals, Everlaws of the world to, be able to quickly process data. But if you don't know what you're doing once you're in there, it's like you could buy a car anywhere. If you don't know how to drive, you want to get someone there to drive you around.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Fitting you use a car analogy because I know you're pretty much of a car buff yourself. So
I am. I've found that everything somehow relates to cars in every
yeah,
aspect of life, at least for me.
that's funny. All right. Well, I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time on legal technology and that sort of thing, but you did take a small hiatus from the tech and the legal world. Tell me a little bit about Etchus and what y'all do, and then we'll just close up from there.
Right on. So, much like probably many of your listeners and viewers, I had the dream to not work corporate anymore, right? I wanted to do my own thing. I can do it better. I want to work for myself. And I did. So when the pandemic hit, things at Haynes and Boone were kind of tightening up, and an opportunity presented itself where I'd be able to walk away. And things at Etchus at that time were just kind of getting rolling, and we had a couple of decent sized contracts. And I was like, I could walk away and I can survive, not get wealthy. I can survive, you know.
Yeah.
So I ran off into this space, and we do a lot of different things. It's absolutely nothing to do with legal, but lots to do with technology, marketing, and sales. We do engraving, and that spans from everything from your Yeti or Stanley Cup all the way to awards for your organization or your trade show, and promotional products all the way through that as well. We've
Yeah.
gotten into a liquid ceramic coating application called Cerakote, which can be applied to a variety of different items, including firearms, motorcycle parts, car parts, boat parts, pretty much anything you could imagine that can take a coating. This stuff works and works outstandingly well. And we've learned a lot along the way. I've had to figure out all the different pieces that I thought I knew that I thought were easy that weren't: accounting, marketing, sales, web development, SEO, Google ads, like all the things that when we're in this corporate mindset we're not thinking a whole lot about. And I could tell you that those 3 years away and 10 years total, this started as a side hustle, and I've always very much encouraged these side hustles. And I wouldn't say go do one in the industry that you're in while working a full-time job, but if you got a hobby that you could somehow turn into something more, it's very rewarding on a number of levels. Like for me, it was able to explore a lot of my creativity that I knew I had but never really got to apply. I got to explore a lot of my business sense. I got to do it for me. I didn't have to sell a bunch of stuff that I didn't, fully believe in. It was, if I was doing it and decided to carry it or perform the service. I believed in what was happening, and if not, I just turned the work down. So it's been going pretty well. We recently got into automotive restoration, and you could follow some of that on our Instagram channel at Etchusco, ETCHUSCO. And we're applying some of those different technologies, not quite the engraving, but more of the Cerakote to those projects to kind of demonstrate to our audience what we're actually able to do. And most recently, we have forayed into the area of using lasers to perform different types of cleaning operations. So we're in the middle of launching a new company called Laser Clean. That's with a Z and a K, LAZERKLEEN. And what we're doing now is using these lasers we could remove rust from metals. We can remove oil from things like an oil pan and be able to paint it or coat it without anything bleeding through. So we're constantly, even outside of legal, looking at different technologies. And I got a team of people that are, operating that today. I provide oversight along the way. And I get to play with all the cool toys at night and on weekends when I'm not doing my recruiting work. And, just kind of having a lot of fun along the way. I feel like laying all your eggs in one basket doesn't always necessarily make sense. And, for me, just kind of switching gears back over to the legal world, getting into recruiting's been, quite the blessing. And, I don't find that there's really much more rewarding out there than coaching people and helping them find work. And I feel like I've got a unique background where I've done the work, I've sat in the manager's seat, I've performed those interviews, I've hired those people. I have a pretty good idea what folks are looking for. And we, try to coach these candidates up. And if they're not the right fit, we don't want to present them. We want to coach them to get them to that point that they want to be. And we want our clients to see that we can get the right people in front of them in a pretty expeditious manner.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I wish you much success at both 2 Point Consulting and with your side hustle, Etchus.
Thank you.
Both technology driven, right? So, very much technology driven. Again, everybody, this is Scott Zimmerman with 2 Point Consulting and Ray Beken with Chorus Consulting. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ray.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been tuning into Voices of Tech and Litigation with your host, Ray Beken. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, chorusconsulting.net. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.